Today I'm doing my May wrap-up part 2, and I have 17 books that I read in the second half of May. So 17 is just crazy, and when I'm feeling really stressed or anxious, I read. So it's been kind of a rough month, which is why we're at 17 books. However, I don't know, I think I'm gonna have to do like Friday reads wrap-ups or something, because 17 books in 2 weeks, that's a lot of books to talk about. So I think that if I did, maybe on Fridays I did a wrap up of the week, that'd still be like 8 books or so, 5 to 8 books a week. So yeah, maybe if you think that's a good idea for me to do, let me know down below, and maybe I'll start that in July. That might be easier to manage than trying to do like 17 books in a wrap up. Yeah. So without further ado, I'm gonna get into it. So as always, this is gonna be ascending. So the worst books first and then the best books last. And I will not get into that much detail for the ones that I didn't like that much, just because I'd rather spend more time talking about the ones that I really, really liked. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. So my lowest book of the month was Why God is a Woman by Nin Andrews. So this is actually a poetry collection, and I give it air quotes because I really strongly disagree that it's poetry at all, frankly. It's like someone wrote a story, but then they break up the paragraphs by putting headers at the new pages. So like it's pretty much like this. Yeah, so it feels like an unfinished short story that someone just chopped up at random parts and then they put weird titles on. So in this one, it's about an island where that has a matriarchal society, which means that the women are in power and the men are all kind of under the wiles and under the machinations of women, and the men also have wings. So a lot of this stuff in this book is talking about, it's a direct reversal of roles in society where the men have to preen and take care of their bodies, and they have to like cook or clean or how they look or what their shape is. And I get it, it's like a direct correlation to our modern society. I understand the message. I think that it was just so perfectly aligned and not at all subtle that I was kind of left annoyed at it, that it was done so... It's basically like if you wrote down what's happening in modern society, you switched the genders, and then you added wings. Like, that's what it was. So I really didn't like this. It's not for me. I gave it 2.5 stars, just because the idea was cool, but not for me. Okay, next is a romance, Hate to Love You by J.P. Oliver. I don't remember a lot about this, except it is a hate to love, and I remember like the first third was really good and really like sweet, the progression was good, and then it got so bad. It was like, it was really fast, like just complete departure from that pacing in the beginning, and it was just like boom, 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 like escalation, escalation, and I was like, wow, this is wildly unrealistic. So I gave that 3 stars. Yeah, don't really recommend it. And then I read 3 books, and they're part of a quartet, and they are For the Hope of a Crow, For the Blood of a Crow, and For the Pride of a Crow, the Red Dead Mayhem series by T.S. Joyce. Now this is a shifter novel series that follows a motorcycle club where the motorcycle members can transform into different animals, and this particular series follows crows. I gave them 3 stars overall. I read them back to back to back, just kind of like mindless fodder, I guess, to like kind of cleanse my palate, have a nice reading night. So if that sounds like something you'd like, go for it. If not, never mind. So after that, I read The Chalkman by C.J. Tudor, and this one I picked up at a local charity shop, and it caught my eye because of the spine. Like, look at that. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So in this one, we are kind of following a gang of kids who, they all hang out together, and it's like 3 boys and a girl, so it's kind of reminiscent of Stranger Things. It's also set in the 80s and also modern day. So in the 80s, a dismembered girl's body was found in the woods, and this group of children stumbled upon it, and then things are set in motion from there. So in modern day, different elements from that crime are starting to pop up again, and people are trying to figure out who did it, basically. So I know that Books and Lala really loved this book. I gave it 3 stars because I think some of the scenes were really good, but I started to lose interest about 2/3 of the way through the book. It got to the point where I didn't necessarily care who did it because I kind of hated all of the characters, if that makes sense. But if you are a person who likes to read thrillers where you don't have to bond with the main character, then this might be for you, especially since like the twist I genuinely did not figure out. So that is really good. Yeah, so I gave it 3 stars. It's okay for me. Next, I picked up a book from the library, which is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. So this follows a main character named Keiko, who is a convenience store worker. So she is a part-time worker in Japan, and everyone kind of gets on her case for it because she doesn't make that much money, she hasn't had a boyfriend or a husband, she's not gonna have children, like basically like everyone's kind of judging her, and she can't understand why people aren't happy that she has a job that she likes. And this is kind of a quirky book for anyone who's felt like they don't fit in. So I gave this 3 stars. It was a very pleasant read, and also it gave me a lot of memories about living in Japan. So yeah, I do recommend it actually. It's a quirky, quick little read and a good insight into Japanese culture if you don't know that much about it or have never been or want to go. So yeah, Convenience Store Women, I do recommend. Okay, nice. So next I read a romance, Pestilence, which is the first in a quartet by Thalassa. I usually love her writing. So she wrote the Dark Harmony trilogy or quartet, I believe, and I loved that. And this one is the first in a quartet following the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and Pestilence is first. So Pestilence comes to Earth and basically, you know, starts killing people, and so that's his storyline. And then the other person is a firefighter. So she pulled straws with her buddies at the fire station, and she was the one that got picked to stay behind and try to kill Pestilence. Yet things don't go as planned, and he takes her hostage instead. So I gave this book 3 stars because I know that the writer could do so much better, and also it was a little boring because it's basically a road trip novel on a horse, which I think the reason why Westerns work is because they're always like shooting people up and like having battles. But Pestilence, it's hard to be interested when wherever they ride, pretty much, he can just kill everyone. So yeah, 3 stars, and I don't think I will be continuing the series. Okay. Now we're getting into the 4 stars. So the first 4-star is In Praise of the Stepmother by Vargas, Llosa, I think. Like this. Yeah. So this is quite a weird book. Like if you like very weird books, surreal books, this might be for you. So in this one we are following a little boy whose name is Alfonso, and his father has recently remarried, and so he now has a new stepmother. And things occur. And the chapters go back and forth between between the point of view of the stepmother and kind of reimaginings of famous paintings. So for instance, like this one, which is like Athena bathing, I believe, and it's a reimagining of what is going on in the scene. So it is a tale of a messed up family dynamic between like a son and a stepmother, and then also the, I want to say, kind of sexual ambiguity, sexual tension in a lot of works of high literary art, and the author is so clever at weaving them together. So like some of the pictures that are picked are chosen to parallel and highlight the instances in the current moments and the mindsets of the different characters. So it's a very weird book. I've never read another book at all like it. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, then I really recommend it. If it doesn't sound interesting to you, I would say don't try it. So the next one that's 4 stars is We Contain Multitudes by Henstra. So in this one, we are following Jonathan and Adam, who are both in high school, and they are assigned in English class to write letters to each other. Basically, one is a senior and he's very like a huge jock, and then the other one is I think a sophomore, and he's kind of like sticks out like a sore thumb, and he's bullied at school, and they start corresponding through English class, and they are talking about, you know, life at home and homophobia and just things along that line. And I was expecting to really love this, and basically about 2/3 of the way through the book I thought that this was going to be kind of similar to Aristotle and Dante. However, I think it really lost itself in the last third, or alternatively it could just be me, because this has one of the things that I hate the most in books, which is cheating. And like, I can't believe the author just like whipped that in there like at the last third. I was like, why? Because I really hate that. So I gave it 4 stars because it was gonna be a solid 4.5 or possibly even 5. And then a few choices in the plot toward the end really brought it down to a 4 for me. So, but I do recommend it, and it is, if you can handle cheating in books, then yeah, check it out. We contain multitudes, which is also like one of my favorite quotes of all time too. Also, this book talks a lot about Walt Whitman, to the point where it made me want to read Leaves of Grass. Yeah. So the next 4-star is How Not to Ask a Boy to Prom by S.J. Goslee. Now, I'm just gonna say it first off. I think that this is better than Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. Just gonna say it. I love this book so much. We are following Nolan, who is 16, gay, and he is very nervous. He has never had a boyfriend, and his sister decides that before he graduates, she is gonna do her darndest to get him a prom date with the guy he likes. And things ensue from there. This had one of the strongest family depictions ever. I want to like be friends with this family. I want to go to their events. And also it was just such a nice, healthy like way to explore the family dynamics and queerness, and just, oh, I loved it so much. So I give it 4 stars. It doesn't get any higher because it is largely very sweet, and for books to get 4.5 or 5, usually they have to have some sort of darker element. So yeah, if you're looking for something that's really sweet and kind of like Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, and a really great like beachy romance, just sugar read, really recommend. So next I read Prince of Air and Darkness by M.A. Grant. Now, a lot of these books were in my recently released Queer Reads video, which I did, so I will leave that link down below. But yeah, this was also awesome and amazing, and I think that it is better than Carry On. So if you like that, then maybe check this one out. So in this one we are following Phineas, who has been cursed with very strong magic that he can't control, and Rourke, who is his roommate and also an unseelie prince of like the Fae underworld. So I'm just saying, it was so good. Like when I finished it, I immediately went to read the next one, and I realized that the next one isn't out until later this year. So you bet your bottom that I am highly anticipating that. It is so good. The characters are really well developed, and all of their conflicts and all of their motivations are really fleshed out, which I super love. So this gets a solid 4 stars from me, and I'm highly anticipating the sequel. So yeah. Another 4-star that I read is a contemporary romance, and it is a forbidden romance called Stepbrother Dearest by Penelope Ward. So we are following a main character whose mother remarries, so she has a stepfather, and the stepfather has a son, and when that son's mother goes on vacation, the stepson comes to live in their house, and she develops feelings for him, and it is just one of the most tension-filled romances I've read this year. I think out of all of the forbidden romances this year, there are 2 that stick out, and like this is one of them. So if you like a forbidden romance and you don't mind it being like painfully suffocating, like how much sexual tension there is, then this would be for you. Okay, and the last of the 4 stars is a duology, and it's The Abyss Surrounds Us and The Edge of the Abyss by Emily Skutski? Sorry. And this was amazing. So I really wish that I had not read these and that I had left them for June, but they were great. So we are following a main character who trains giant sea monsters to be the companions to ships, because we're in a world that has countries have broken down into smaller kind of state countries, and we no longer have a lot of the ways of transport that we used to have. So a lot of people ship goods between countries, and there are pirates. So in order to protect ships against pirates, they train up these huge sea beasts, and she is a sea beast trainer. And one day she's out on a mission with her ship and her sea beast, and they are attacked by pirates. Her sea beast is killed, and she is taken hostage. Not hostage, but she is taken by the pirates. Wow, this was so good. Yeah, and it has a queer romance, but the romance is definitely secondary to the plot, like the adventure plot of the sea pirates and the world and the sea monsters, and it was so good. It was so good. I didn't realize that I needed that in my life until I read it. Yeah, I wish that there was more, but there were just two. And I read them back to back, ravenously. So if that at all sounds interesting to you, I really, really recommend it. The characters were so well developed, and also they didn't break character at all. So I really appreciate that the characters, they grew over time, but it makes sense, for the story. And the end was just really good, and I really loved it. So yeah, I highly, highly recommend this duology. Okay, so we're down to the last two books. So they both have 4.5 stars. So this is The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill, and it is so gosh darn cute. So I got this to read when I was watching my niece, and it was so cute, oh my god. So we are in a world where there are these little beings called tea dragons. And this is an example of a tea dragon right here. So in this one, we are following the tea dragons associated with a certain tea house that makes the tea from the tea dragon leaves. And we are following two main characters. Here they are. So she can't really remember where she's from, and she's trying to figure out how to live in this new world. And she is struggling to learn her family's trade, which is being a blacksmith. So this was so gosh darn cute, and it has a lot of queer rep. The illustrations are wonderful. It's so colorful. I just loved it so, so much. So if you have a young reader in your life, I really, really recommend it. So for example, this is what the pages look like. Just stunning. It is so pretty. So yeah, this got 4.5 stars for me. It was really good, and my niece sat through the whole thing. I think I read to her for 20-30 minutes because I always use a lot of funny voices and gestures. So yeah, I loved this. It was so good. And the last book on this list, which is also 4.5 stars, is Crisped and Sear, which is the sequel to Withered and Sear by TJ Klune. So I have been raving about this book. I raved about it in my June wrap-up part 1 and my 5-star anticipated books, and it was really amazing. So this is a continuation of the first book, so I'm not gonna talk about what happens in this book, I'm just gonna talk about what happens in the first book. So in Withered and Sear, we are following Cavallo, who is a man kind of on his own in a post-nuclear fallout world. He lives in a old prison, which is guarded by an AI system, and he has his dog, which he calls Bad Dog, and he only goes to town every so often because he doesn't really get on with organized society that well, and he likes to just be on his own because he has a lot of PTSD from other things that have happened. Until one day when he's out hunting and he hits a deer, but the deer veers across the highway, which is a huge problem because on the other side is the cannibal gang known as the Dead Rabbits. When he goes across the highway to collect the deer, he is almost caught by the gang, and then they leave, and then he meets someone else, and that person he then takes back to his side of the highway, and things ensue. So this book I've said is very dark, really dark. So there's cannibalism, extreme violence, sexual assault, like just there's a lot going on that's very dark. But the first book I gave 5 stars, and the second book I gave 4.5 stars. I think the second book at the end, the like final battle scene was a bit like one too many huge things thrown in, if that makes sense. Like I didn't need 2 of the things that happened to happen, and I think it would have been like a tighter ending, but it is still, oh my god, so good. And this is, I think, the only series that's gonna make it on my best books of the year list, probably. Yeah, so if you like dark content and you like post-apocalyptic or dystopian, some like really dark queer romance, really good dog depictions, this has like one of the best dog depictions ever, then this would be for you. So yeah, that finishes up all 17 books. I know that this is so long. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. If you skipped ahead to see the best books, I don't blame you. This is very long. I think I'm gonna try and break it down in July so that I do maybe Friday reads, and I would wrap up what I'm reading, what I've read for the week, because this is just so long. Like, whoa, it's long. My camera battery died and the card got full, so I've had to stop like twice. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day and that you're getting a lot of reading done. And yeah, happy Pride, everyone.